I'm now delighted to be joined on the line by Cedric The Entertainer for the next of our series Icons of Comedy. And first of all, Cedric, comedy. When you talk about comedy and stand-up comedy, and through the ages we had great comedians of different sorts of generations, what does that word comedy mean to you personally?
For me, I grew up a kid in the 70s, and it was good television. It was the kind of golden era of great TV shows, be it sitcoms, and kind of the introduction of great stand-up comedians. So it's just that thing that makes you laugh at the core. Gets inside you and make you laugh at something that makes you feel good. That's what good comedy is.
Yeah, and Cedric, you mentioned there you grew up you were born in 1964 in Jefferson City, Missouri, and growing up as a teenager as a young child in Jefferson and going through your school days, was comedy always the first love, or where did that passion or interest in comedy come? Were you naturally athletic? Did you like sports, basketball, American football, or where did comedy really become an option for you?
I think really the comedy at that point, where you recognize that you're good at making people laugh, came in those teenage years in junior high school and high school, where you would be in the lunchroom, in the cafeteria, and they would do what we would call the dozens. This is where you would talk about your friends, whatever outfit they had on, their family situation, and those kind of things. And I believe that's where I really started to own my sense of comedy. But I played a little sports, but I was raised in a single parent household. My mother, she didn't really like me being hit on football practice, and then in basketball I never kind of grew quite tall enough to be considered any threat. So being in the live arts and entertainment became probably my greatest escape.
Yeah, and you mentioned that about the live arts and the sort of entertainment. Were you, or as a child, were you always sort of writing sort of material for yourself? And when did you first, were you always practicing out jokes and growing up? And when did you first decide, right, this is a real passion of mine, this is something I want to pursue further?
I actually probably think that came a lot later. Like I say, the natural ability started like in high school and junior high school, where I knew I could make people laugh, but never did I kind of, internalize it at that time as a career path or something I can do in any kind of professional manner. And I think that happened a lot later. Like once I graduated from college, it started to be a lot more commonplace to find people in my peer group that was doing stand-up comedy as a career option, as something that they didn't have to go to a 9-to-5 on. And I started to meet a few of those people, and they encouraged me that I had the ability to do it. And so, I followed that passion after that. Once someone kind of introduced me to how you do it and go up on stage and start performing. The first time I ever did it, I won $500.
Yeah, and I suppose, Cedric, in terms of career paths for you, and we all know about the kings of comedy and yourself and D.H. Hudley and Bernie Mac and Steve Harvey, and did you sort of get to know these people along the comedy circuit, or were the sort of these acquaintances, did you know some of these people from an early stage, and where did that sort of idea come about?
Yeah, definitely. It's a fairly small world, the world of stand-up, especially back then. It's gotten a lot larger now that, people on the internet, and you can have, social media following. But still, it has a very small fraternity belonging to kind of a world, So I knew a lot of those guys. Steve Harvey and I were friends before. He had a comedy club in Dallas that I would be one of his favorites to bring down, especially when he wanted to travel. Met Bernie Mac several years before the Kings of Comedy, along as well as D.L. Hughley. All of us were just kind of, being out on the road, see each other in passing, maybe do a show here and there. But the Kings of Comedy came, at the right time after comedy was starting to grow quite a bit, and it made sense. The promoter to do what he wanted to consider a mega show where people would come and see four great guys in one night, and so that's where the Kings of Comedy idea stemmed from, and of course, more than happy and glad that I was a part of it.
Yeah, and we also know the phenomenon of what was Def Jam comedy, and Def Jam was something that you were one of the original sort of contributors for. And did you see that sort of the blossoming of that and see that take off at such a rate all across the States and worldwide as well? It was sort of a great time for sort of breakout comedians.
Yeah, no, it was just so perfect. I mean, of course, the comedy structure in America at that time, before then, was really about going to predominantly white comedy clubs, and you had to have what would be kind of a traditional delivery, which is joke, setup, punchline. Joke, setup, punchline. And the thing about doing when the urban comedy wave came along, and the success of Def Comedy Jam, it led for more conversational, more delivery that feels like a friend or family, the way you would tell jokes in front of family members as opposed to like telling classic setup punchline jokes. It started to feel more like, hey, you're just telling a story to some friends, and we understood that, which is definitely a part of my brand and how I became I believe, really popular because that was my style.
Yeah, and Cedric, we all know your stand-up comedy career, it's legendary, but you also did that transition as well across into comedy acting, and was that sort of a daunting experience the first time, not being in charge of your own material in terms of your jokes and having to trust writers in terms of what they deem would be funny for you in terms of punchlines and gags, and that transition where we're in front of multiple cameras, deadline, it's that intimate setting with you and the audience one-to-one is now sort of gone in such a way. How did you find that sort of transition? Was it a nervous experience for you?
Yeah, for me, I actually say I got pretty lucky because really my first true TV experience of playing in a situational comedy was with Steve Harvey. So he was somebody I knew already. We had a shorthand with each other. We were already friends. The director of that show was Stan Lathan, who did the Def Comedy Jams. So he was someone who had been a part of my life and a part of my career. So to that degree, I got pretty lucky. But I also was a theater minor in college. So I studied theater and had, experience of being in plays and performing on stage. So I guess for me as a stand-up, performing live in front of people, it wasn't really that, it wasn't that scary for me to make that transition. The main thing I had to learn was the technical aspect of making sure I was facing the camera when I was saying my lines, or not doing, those kind of moves that you're not aware of as a, as a young actor. But, I learned those things pretty quickly, and just, had a good time moving into it.
Yeah, and I suppose, Cedric, one thing about comedy, it transcends barriers in terms of a global atmosphere. And do you ever find that you ever have to, your material that you use in the United States and travelling around certain states in the United States, when you go outside the country and go to touring to different parts of the world, do you feel your same material still has the same punch, or do you feel that you need to invent around wherever you're being at, or sort of change it up or mix it up a bit?
I think it's very wise to mix it up a little bit and definitely try to take in and write material that, would be relatable to your environment. I mean, I've had the opportunity to do the UK, and then, which would be, probably the most different one for me, Australia,